Hello everyone, welcome to Conversations with Sakina. In this video, we're going to share a story that I heard on What Lurks Beneath. The episode was This Is Why Hikers Are Scared of Mount Shasta, Part 3, and I will put a link to that in the description box below if you want to hear the full story. In this video, I'm just going to give you a portion of the story so that we can pull some cards on it. So the story on the video that I listened to is called Slipping Through Time. And it took place in 1983. There was a guy by the name of Douglas Vaughn who spent a lot of time on Mount Shasta when he wasn't working. He wasn't like a professional hiker or anything like that. He just really enjoyed spending time outdoors. And on this date, he was walking along Ash Creek Butte, which is apparently between the road and the mountain, Mount Shasta. And he was following the creek, which apparently he did a lot, so he knew the area very, very well. He'd been hiking this particular route a lot, so he was very familiar. And at one point, he knew that there was a meadow, so he stepped out of the woods and onto the meadow. What surprised him, since he had been to this meadow a good number of times, is that he could see a very old log cabin, something that looked like it had come out of the 1800s. And he had been to this meadow numerous times, many times, and never remembered seeing any kind of log cabin. And then what really took him aback was that there was an old guy with long beard dressed in period clothing of 1800s, and also a little girl in the same kind of clothing, like on Little House on the Prairie, in the same kind of clothing, and she was playing with a rag doll. Now, this is something that he had not seen ever before in this particular meadow. And, he did take the time to look around and think, well, maybe I stepped out a little too soon, and this is a different meadow, something I didn't see before. But he recognized some landmarks, and he recognized specific trees that he had admired, that kind of thing. So he knew that it was the same meadow. The weird thing is that the man and the child didn't see him, didn't notice him. The man was working in the garden and the little girl was playing with her doll, didn't see a thing, didn't hear him. So he even shouted because he didn't want to startle them. He's like, hey, hello, and nothing. They didn't even look up. They didn't notice him at all. It was like he wasn't there, but they were. Now Douglas yelled, a few more times trying to get their attention, and still nothing. And then all of a sudden, it was like the little girl looked up and saw him. At least he thinks she saw him. And she let out a squeak, which, made the man look up, and the man too seemed to be looking at him. So the little girl, the man, gestured to the little girl, and she went and hid behind his legs, and the guy stood there shrieking or carrying on, gesturing and whatever at Douglas in a language that Douglas didn't understand. So, to keep the man from thinking that he was, there to hurt them, Douglas backed up, put his hands up like, no, I'm just taking a walk. I'm hiking. I happened to come across you. I'm no threat. And then all of a sudden the little girl shrieked, and the old guy started pointing and, talking louder, yelling, whatever. And Douglas turned around and there was this giant black bear coming his way. Now my wonderment is that what the man and the girl were seeing to start with, where they still never saw Douglas at all? He just thought they did. Instead, the old guy was, warding off the bear, or trying to ward off the bear. Anyway, Douglas, in seeing the bear, just lost his head. He took off running. the opposite direction of the bear, and he kept running and kept running and kept running, or so he thought. When he was finally out of breath, couldn't run anymore, he realized that he hadn't gone as far as he thought he had, and he could still see the meadow, but now there was no bear, there were no people, there was no cabin. But he was lost. Even though things looked the way that they looked, and you would think that he would know how to get back to the trail that he was just on. Obviously, since that's where the bear was, he really didn't want to go that direction, so he tried to find the trail without going back that direction and ended up being very lost. He was found a day later, very dehydrated, very confused because he hadn't taken enough water or anything, and it was quite an experience. So the question we want to ask the cards today is, did Douglas go through some kind of portal into an earlier time on Mount Shasta? So that is what we're going to see, what the cards have to say. Did Douglas go through some kind of portal into an earlier time on Mount Shasta? Okay. So we have the Four of Stones or Four of Pentacles. We have the Ace of Blades or Ace of Swords. We have the Magician. We have the Ace of Sticks or Ace of Wands. And we have the Page of Stones or Page of Pentacles. And then we're going to pull a couple Lenormand cards here to put above. See if we can get even more to the story. So we have the man, we have the mice, we have the bouquet, and we have the rider. Then we're going to pull a gentle creatures card and hope that it fits up top. So we have all, A-L-L. Okay, so this tells the story, the first cards here, tells the story of, Douglas went on his trip wanting to have just a relaxation kind of day, relaxing kind of time, go out and do something that he enjoyed doing. And he went out prepared to the mountains, at least somewhat prepared. He, had something to help him through, and he thought about what he needed and thought he had everything he needed. However, the mountains can be a little on the tricky side. The magician can be a trickster also. And the mountain offered so much opportunity for him. He never got tired of being there. So camping was not out of the question. I don't know for sure if he happened to camp this time or if he just went out on the hike. But he always knew that he had something to learn, something that going on these hikes was going to teach him every single time. And just sitting in a campground wasn't going to do it for him. Now, did Douglas go through some kind of portal into an earlier time on Mount Shasta? Since we have the magician in the center spot, I'm going to say yes, it was a trickster energy of some sort between two aces, which can be, two columnar type things, two aces, And there he was, stepping over the sparkling water, stepping through this portal. So I'm going to say yes. So the man, meaning Douglas, found himself lost on what he thought was just going to be a absolutely amazing day. But instead, it was a whole different energy. A whole different energy brought to him through this portal. Something totally, totally unexpected that came his way. And I feel like the all card, the Gentle Creatures all card, is saying time is very illusory. Everything happens not in a linear way, but past, present, and future all merge together, all come together. And as you can see, the Gentle Creature is standing there, and he has his hands like this, looking into the palms of his hands. What do you think is there? What is contained within the space of his two hands? And is it possible to capture what the universe, everything that can go on in the universe, is it possible to capture that in those two hands? Probably not. So this is just one of those cards that's saying what took place that day to Douglas is certainly unexplainable, or seems to be unexplainable, and that he did experience what he thought he experienced. He thought that he went through some kind of a portal, or as the person who did the video called it, a time slip. Well, here's your two pillars, and here's the trickster energy in between. One thing I do want to ask very quickly of the cards is, did the old man and the little girl actually see Douglas? Because my thinking is that they saw the bear, but I want to know if they ever actually saw Douglas. He felt like they did. So let's take a look and see if the old man and the little girl actually saw Douglas. So we have the King of Wands. So I'm going to say yes, they did. It wasn't just the bear that they saw. They actually saw a man standing there in the meadow. Now this one's in the water, obviously, but they actually saw him standing there, big as life, on the meadow. And it was them, or it was him, Douglas, that the old man was shouting at first, and then that they were trying to warn him of the bear behind him. Oh, one other thing. Was the bear real? In other words, the bear that they were seeing in, let's say, the 1800s, the bear that the old man and the little girl and Douglas saw, was that a bear back in the 1800s, but not in 1983? Was it a bear in the 1800s? Eight of Sticks or Eight of Wands. So the Eight of Sticks is saying absolutely this was right on target to what was asked. If the bear was specifically 1800s, yes it was, and only there. It was not in 1983. And if you remember from the story, when Douglas got done running, there was no bear. No cabin, no people, no bear either. So you would have thought that at least he might see the bear in the field or something, but no. It's saying that absolutely right on target, the focus was perfect. It was 1800s and only 1800s. So there we have what the cards have to share about this time portal that we asked about. Hope you enjoyed the reading, and we will see you again next time. Take care.